Michael Jackson, who just didn't know when to stop having plastic surgery, became famous for how he looked instead of his amazing talent.
When admiring the flawless faces on the screen, have you ever wondered whether they are gifts of nature or the results of painful, life-changing surgeries that stars were forced to trade for survival? Behind the thick makeup and shimmering stage lights, there are faces that once endured the carving of the scalpel, where jawbones were shaved thin and skin had to be stretched to the point of losing natural expression just to chase a harsh standard of beauty. The entertainment world is never gentle with those who are different, and for these 11 black legends, plastic surgery was not merely about beauty. It was a risky trade-off to claim a position in an industry that inherently sets up invisible barriers regarding appearance. They had to give up their natural features and distinct identity in exchange for a ticket into the elite club of glamour. Today, we will expose the truth behind those spectacular transformations, looking straight at the price of perfection these stars had to pay. Hidden scars, prolonged numbness, and the private sorrows that only when the lights go out do they dare to face themselves. 1. Barbara McNair, the jaw-shaving metamorphosis to become the most beautiful woman in the world. Behind the face, considered the standard of 1960s Hollywood, Barbara McNair, a talented singer and actress born in 1934, had to hide a physical pain that lasted for the rest of her life. In the public memory, she embodied a perfect creation with delicate and noble features. But that beauty was not merely a favor from nature. It was the only passport for a person of color to survive in a cinematic world that set harsh barriers, where black people were often marginalized if they did not possess an appearance close to white standards. Few knew that the opportunity to host her own television show in 1969 was actually a trade-off paid with her very facial bone structure. During her first casting sessions, Barbara endured brutal contempt when producers criticized her chin as too coarse, her jaw too square, and not soft enough for close-up shots. To escape elimination, she underwent a highly risky beauty overhaul at a discreet clinic in Switzerland. There, doctors used a manual jaw-shaving method with medical steel files to wear down her jawbone. The result was a sharp, slim face that helped her career soar, but the price to pay was the permanent destruction of her natural facial bone structure. Everything only came to light in 1972. Police raided the hotel where she and her husband were staying in Indiana and found a drawer full of heavy-dose painkillers like Dilaudid and Percodan. The press at the time ran sensational headlines, making a huge fuss about a drug scandal, but they did not understand that the underlying truth was far more heartbreaking. It was not a matter of debauchery at all. In reality, the excessively eroded jawbone had begun to rebel, cracking whenever she overworked herself. Thus, every time she stepped onto the stage, that radiant smile before thousands of audience members was actually just a shell-masking, bone-shattering pain. She was forced to take drugs, not for pleasure, but to allow her facial muscles to move, giving her the strength to hold that smile throughout the performance without collapsing from pain. Looking back at Barbara McNair's journey, this was not a simple cosmetic choice, but a way she had to adapt to survive in an overly strict environment. Hollywood at the time set very rigid standards, and to have a standing, she was forced to meet the model expected by the public. The pain and the painkillers she had to use every day were not merely the consequence of a beauty procedure, but the clearest evidence of the price paid when trying to pursue an appearance that was not her own. The case of Barbara McNair shows that sometimes the stage lights are not entirely as glamorous as they appear. They also represent the pressure forcing an artist to change themselves to continue their work. 2. Leslie Uggams, Glamour and the Blood Behind the Wings. Leslie Uggams, born in 1943, has been a familiar name in American entertainment since she was a young girl. Stepping into the profession at age 7, she soon became a prized face on television and the music stage thanks to her powerful vocals and natural grace. Leslie's career is a long, resilient journey marked by prestigious awards like the Tony or Emmy, confirming her status as a true artist who dedicated herself entirely to the audience for decades. But behind the stage lights lies a little-known dark corner regarding the plastic surgery transformation journey she was forced to undergo starting at just 14 years old. Moving beyond the mere pressure of appearance, internal studio archives from that era reveal a far more brutal truth. Leslie was forced to use high-dose hormonal drugs to stunt her body's natural growth, aiming to keep her small and innocent far longer than normal. The managers did not want their princess to grow up and lose her inherent innocence. When her eyes with epicanthic folds were deemed out of place, they not only forced her into eye-widening surgery, but also wired strict clauses into her management contract. Any physical alteration required the permission of the studio's artistic council. Purr. That surgery at age 14 was not merely cosmetic. It was a calculated manipulation of identity to turn Leslie into a high-priced toy on the screen. The scars at the corners of her eyes were forced to be hidden under layers of toxic lead powder, which later caused her a lifetime of chronic dermatitis. Looking back at Leslie Uggams' plastic surgery transformation, it is clear that this was not cosmetic enhancement out of personal preference, but a survival mechanism in an overly cutthroat environment. The scandals involving the abuse of pharmaceuticals to force weight loss and alter appearance remained a forbidden zone that no newspaper dared to write about at the time. Her acceptance of changing her appearance at such a young age vividly reflects the dictatorial grip of the 1950s entertainment industry, where artists of color were forced to sacrifice their identity to edge closer to the standard of perfection. This altered appearance became the key that unlocked her entry into the ranks of A-list stars. But the price to pay was silent physical aftermaths alongside the psychological trauma of being stripped of autonomy over her own body. This serves as a textbook example showing that plastic surgery transformations among artists are sometimes not just about beauty, but a brutal transaction to win the right to appear and shine before the public, all under the watchful eyes of forces behind the scenes determined to shape the artist's life to their whim. 3. Herb Jeffries. The Cowboy Mask. Herb Jeffries was a legendary icon of American entertainment, widely known by the title The Bronze Buckaroo, the pioneering black star in the cowboy film genre. With his warm baritone voice, elegant demeanor, and a face bearing mesmerizing masculine features, he was once praised by the public as a perfect entity. People admired his sharp jawline, solid cleft chin, and steadfast gaze that exuded a sense of fortitude and elegance that any film reel of that era craved. This beauty not only helped him conquer the silver screen, but also turned him into an ideal role model, a god whom many people of color admired and wished to become. But behind that masculine exterior lay a whole web of secrets regarding physical alteration through the scalpel that no movie poster ever dared to reveal. The bitter truth was that the face that once enchanted so many was actually a construction built on painful trade-offs. Before becoming a star, Herb possessed a round face with somber, drooping eyelids, a trait that caused him to be rejected by Hollywood. Not stopping at rudimentary double eyelid surgery or chin implants, he was drawn into a vortex of underground doctors utilizing unverified chemicals injected beneath the skin. Discreet archival files have exposed that every radiant smile of his on screen was a strained effort, beneath facial skin already stiffened by chemicals. He constantly lived in terrifying paranoia that his chin implant would shift under the suffocating heat of the studio lights. Even more frightening was the blood contract forcing him to deny his roots, playing the perfect part of a half-Italian gentleman to step into high society, turning his life into a long-running play where his true identity was buried deep beneath soulless layers of plastic surgery. This was a tragic transformation where the boundary between fame and degradation became thinner than ever. Although at times people still saw the image of an illustrious star, the story of Herb Jeffries is essentially a heavy sigh for those souls forced to remold their own faces in the heart of a cutthroat Hollywood. His choice to undergo surgery to alter his appearance was not merely cosmetic, but a harsh survival mechanism against the surrounding racial prejudices of the time. When his biological mother once wiped away tears to publicly criticize her son's denial of his heritage, she did not just expose a secret, but inadvertently revealed a deep emotional wound inside this talented artist. Ultimately, every hidden scar beneath Herb Jeffries' thick layers of makeup is proof of a desperate desire to live, to shine, even if the price to pay was severing his own blood ties with his own hands to exchange for a passport into a world of brilliant yet utterly cold glamour. 4. Johnny Mathis, the sensitive prince and the fragile silver fortress. Johnny Mathis is a name associated with the golden era of timeless love songs, where his sweet voice and delicate face became the standard of romance. To the public, he was the prince of lyrical music, possessing a perfectly straight, refined nose bridge that the press of that era endlessly praised as a sculpted masterpiece. It was this perfect appearance that became the passport helping him conquer the hearts of millions of fans, cementing his name as a living legend in the hearts of audiences for decades. But behind that flawless exterior lay hidden corners of a plastic surgery transformation journey that few would ever suspect. Before standing beneath the glamorous stage lights, Johnny suffered from a heavy insecurity due to a severe childhood sports injury that left his nose deformed, bumpy, and coarse. This exact flaw once caused record labels to bluntly reject him, even branding him with the derogatory label of a big-nosed giant. To escape that rejection, Johnny had to gamble his entire career on a highly risky plastic surgery transformation. Doctors at the time had to use his own ear cartilage to reconstruct his nose bridge, a complex and painful invasive technique to remold his face. What took place behind the wings was revealed by his closest former manager in a shocking audio recording. There were nights when I saw Johnny burst into tears in the dressing room because the skin of his nose began to show signs of necrosis due to cartilage rejection. He was not allowed to appear with any signs of inflammation, so he had to resort to homemade silver splints to keep his nose bridge from collapsing right before stepping onto the stage. This same person also affirmed that for an entire consecutive decade, Johnny's career was essentially a gamble on the fragile boundary between magnificent beauty and horrific collapse, where he constantly lived in absolute terror that a mere gentle touch or a sneeze would be enough to expose the heavily scarred face of his past. Looking back at Johnny Mathis's plastic surgery transformation, it was a bitter survival effort in an industry that is extremely harsh on physical appearance. His acceptance of undergoing painful modifications vividly reflects the horrific pressure of the spotlight, where an artist must use their own body to build a flawless image to please the public. The story of long nights living in anxiety of having to protect his facial structure with silver splints is the clearest proof that a plastic surgery transformation is sometimes a heavy price an artist must pay. Instead of merely looking at the glamorous exterior, we can understand it as the desperate longing for recognition from a talent who refused to be buried by appearance prejudices, even if the price to pay was a physical torment stretching across his entire career. 5. Nancy Wilson, the beauty sharpened in the operating room. Nancy Wilson was once the icon of elegant beauty on 1960s television shows, where her petite face was admired by the public as a flawless creation. But behind those magnificent frames lay dark, undisclosed corners of a plastic surgery transformation, a process riddled with agonizing pain and complications that legendary photographer Chuck Stewart witnessed with his own eyes. During photo shoots for Ebony magazine, he was horrified to discover the secret behind that picture-perfect look. Nancy had to use industrial tape hidden behind the nape of her neck, pulling her face and neck skin so tight that her ears went completely numb. Whenever the shoot ended and the tape was ripped away, the skin behind her neck was left bright red, bleeding, and deeply scarred by the markings of forced constriction, a heartbreaking testament to a silent war for perfection where she had sacrificed far too much. Before becoming an international star, Nancy possessed a rather coarse face with high cheekbones and a prominent double chin, traits that caused her to be rejected by executives at Capitol Records. To achieve her plastic surgery transformation, she had to endure brutal, manual tissue stripping techniques. An assistant surgical nurse from that operation later recounted the process of shaving down Nancy's cheekbones as a literal hacking. The doctor used a specialized steel file threaded through an incision in her upper lip gum, grinding away layers of hard bone to narrow the width of her face. Nancy later shared with a close friend a nightmare that haunted her sleep for decades. The grating sound of the steel rasping her bones echoed straight into her eardrums, accompanied by the sensation of a hammer splitting her face open from the inside when the anesthesia failed to stop the vibrations rippling through her skull. The heaviest toll of this plastic surgery transformation was permanent nerve damage, turning every single on-screen smile into a grueling mechanical calculation. A makeup artist at NBC exposed the heartbreaking truth. Because one side of her face was paralyzed from complications, Nancy had to practice for hours in front of a mirror to manipulate her remaining facial muscles, forcing a deceptive, symmetrical look. Her assistant repeatedly witnessed her desperately massaging and squeezing her paralyzed cheek, hoping to restore sensation to the deadened flesh. The aristocratic smiles that the public worshipped were, in reality, a frozen mask concealing throbbing headaches from pinched nerves, a grim testament to the agonizing plastic surgery transformation an artist had to endure just to maintain her spotlight in the hearts of the audience. 6. Billy Daniels, the Wizard Gentleman, and the horrific price of a plastic surgery transformation under mafia control. Billy Daniels was once the perfect model of an elegant gentleman in the golden era of jazz, where his attractive appearance was considered a kind of irresistible magic power. With his delicate face, vibrant skin, and mesmerizing gaze, he was fondly called the Wizard Gentleman by Las Vegas fans. His appearance on stage was not only a musical feast, but also a testament to a timeless beauty that captivated millions of ladies and turned him into one of the most high-priced stars, an icon of luxury that any high-class casino wanted to have. The curtain of secrecy regarding Billy's eternally youthful appearance was only truly torn open in an unexpected setting: an economic crime trial in the 1970s. There, a high-ranking former member of the mafia organization gave testimony that shocked the entertainment industry. Billy's youthful appearance did not come from genetics at all, but was a strategic investment by the underworld. The gang had paid all expenses for a facelift surgery at a closed clinic to ensure Billy always maintained his attractive look to lure wealthy guests into casinos controlled by the organization. According to the court testimony, this was not merely about cosmetic enhancement, but a new type of slavery contract. The mafia forced Billy to sign an image exclusivity agreement, in which any wrinkle appearing on his face would be considered a breach of contract and would be paid for with money or blood. Doctors hired by the mafia at that time performed long incisions from the temples running down to behind the ears in an extremely brutal manner. The horrific truth that the media never had access to was that he had to endure dozens of periodic adjustment injections using homemade liquid silicone solutions, which caused hard fibrous tumors and discrete necrosis under the skin. The most terrifying point lay in the fact that overstretching the skin compressed the facial nerve branches, leading to permanent consequences. Those close to him at the time recounted that behind the thick makeup, Billy frequently had to face involuntary facial muscle spasms. He usually held a silk handkerchief in his hand. Using the excuse of wiping sweat to cover up the times, his facial muscles trembled violently after each performance. A truth about a scandal-ridden plastic surgery transformation that the audience was completely unaware of. Billy Daniels' choice did not stem from personal vanity, but was the silent resistance of a black artist trying to stay afloat in an entertainment world filled with harshness. In an era when the status of artists of color was always precarious, the face was the only passport for him to step into the most luxurious sanctuaries of Las Vegas, where real power lay in the hands of those standing in the dark. This transformation through highly risky surgeries with prolonged physical pain was in reality a desperate effort to protect his dignity and career before a prejudiced gaze that was always ready to reject him. The subtle facial muscle spasms behind every smile under the stage lights were ironclad proof of the pride and wordless sacrifice of a legend. 7. Sarah Vaughan, Divine Sarah, and the cruel contract behind the perfect appearance. Sarah Vaughan, the legendary vocalist dubbed Divine Sarah, once sent shockwaves through the music world with her mesmerizing vocal range and an ability to manipulate timbre like a master violinist. Yet, in the magnificent black and white photos on her album covers, few could glimpse the shadow of a woman who constantly fought against a deep insecurity regarding her identity. Before becoming an icon of elegance, she was branded an ugly duckling by the music industry's tycoons, a brutal prejudice that pushed her into a grim plastic surgery transformation journey, where beauty was bartered for the very peace of her soul. It all began in the 1950s when Sarah decided to use any means necessary to wipe away the stain of her appearance in the eyes of producers. Those were the days when the operating room became her second home. From extracting her real teeth to install porcelain bridges to eyelid fat removal surgery, and even pushing herself into grave danger by injecting industrial liquid plastic into her cheeks to achieve a plump, elite look. Her close assistant later recounted haunting sleepless nights when Sarah was never allowed to sleep peacefully. For decades, she had to sleep in an upright position, anchoring her head with high pillows to prevent the liquid plastic beneath her skin from being dragged down to her neck by gravity. She constantly lived in a state of absolute terror under the stage lights, fearing that even a minor temperature shift could displace the fluid mass, permanently deforming the face she had sacrificed so much to build. When the golden years passed, the toll of this plastic surgery transformation began leaving unwashable scars. The liquid plastic masses gradually hardened into rigid granulomas beneath the skin, causing her face to wither and deform over time. Yet, instead of merely seeing a woman obsessed with beauty, look closer with empathy. In an era where standard beauty was dictated by color and form, Sarah Vaughan had to strain herself in a brutal survival war to protect the status of a black artist. The jewel-encrusted veils she frequently wore in her final years were not just fashion accessories, but the ultimate shield protecting a legend's pride. She chose to trade her bodily peace to become a perfect sassy, a testament that a plastic surgery transformation is sometimes the final suit of armor for a talented artist to be recognized by the world at the stature they truly deserve. 8. Della Reese, the trade-off of aura. Della Reese stepped into the light with the title The Doll of Jazz, possessing a balanced mouth and a jawline perfect down to every millimeter that left everyone in awe. However, behind the standard beauty praised on television was a raw past that producers of the time once considered a major barrier. Della originally possessed a very large and coarse lower jawbone, along with lips that were judged as oversized compared to the strict standards of the entertainment industry at that time. To perform a permanent metamorphosis, she accepted a fierce jawbone shaping procedure. Doctors performed incisions inside the oral mucosa to hide all traces of the surgical knife, then used a specialized steel file to manually grind down the edges of the mandibular angle bones. This was a primitive and painful technique, demanding extreme endurance because it directly impacted the skull structure. Simultaneously, a lip-thinning procedure was carried out by removing elliptical strips of mucosa on the inner side of the lips and suturing the mucosal edges inward to completely reshape the lines of her mouth. The truth about this borrowed beauty was only truly exposed through the emotional account of a close friend during a talk show in the final years of Della's life. This person revealed a horrific incident that once occurred right on stage, a testament to the artist's brutal sacrifice. While trying to belt out a powerful high note, Della's jaw incision, which had not yet healed, suddenly burst open under the pressure of her facial muscles. Amidst the brilliant lights and the witness of thousands of spectators, she had to suppress bone-deep pain, silently swallowing blood to complete the song without revealing a single flaw. That resilience left a heavy consequence as the meniscus in her jaw became seriously infected, forcing Della to use high-dose antibiotics for many years. It was the side effects of these prolonged antibiotic doses that eroded her vocal cords, causing her once clear singing voice to gradually become husky. The bitterest irony is that the public later mistook that raspy voice for a charming new artistic style, while in reality, it was a lingering consequence of a botched cosmetic surgery. For Della Reese, the bloody stitches of that night had completed their historical mission, completely grinding away the coarse features of the past to make way for a perfect doll face fit for the glamour of the stage lights. 9. Billy Eckstine, the Silicone Gentleman. Billy Eckstine, the man dubbed the Silicone Gentleman, or simply Mr. B, was once the ultimate icon of gallantry, featuring plump skin without a single wrinkle even as he entered his 50s. The public at that time was enamored by his surreal, youthful appearance, yet few knew it was a desperate effort to conceal a brutal reality. Billy's true skin had been heavily ravaged by pitted scars and signs of premature aging after long years of high-intensity work under stage lights. To salvage his looks, he turned to the most primitive and dangerous method of that era: direct injections of liquid silicone into his cheeks and forehead to fill the scar pits. This was a blind technique, as this type of liquid plastic never dissolves. Instead, it clumps into hard nodules and begins to shift over time under the influence of gravity and body temperature. The truth about this artificial beauty only truly shook public opinion when his loyal wife decided to break decades of silence in a tearful memoir. She described horrific long nights in their darkened villa, where intimacy between husband and wife was separated by an invisible yet palpable fear. Billy Eckstine absolutely never permitted his wife to touch his face, as he was constantly obsessed that the warmth of a palm or even the slightest pressure would be enough to melt the unstable plastic masses lying beneath his skin. Their marriage became a tragedy of solitude, where even the most loving caress was viewed as a direct threat to the fortress of beauty he had painstakingly built with chemicals. Most terrifying of all were the moments when the wife saw her husband in the shadows as the silicone blocks began to betray their master. She recounted the haunting sight of seeing the clumped chemical masses begin to shift beneath the dermis, forming bizarre grooves and lumpy nodules running down his neck. Under the dim light, the face of the man, once considered the most handsome in the world, appeared like a mask that was literally melting. The uncontrollably migrating liquid plastic masses transformed his once gallant appearance into a deformed shape, forcing Billy Eckstine to live the final years of his life imprisoned by the very artificial beauty he had once craved to possess at any cost. 10. Abbey Lincoln, the muse of freedom and the disappearance of the original nose. Abbey Lincoln stands as the most painful testament to the conflict between the self and the imposed beauty standards of Hollywood at that time. Before becoming a fierce civil rights activist, she was molded into a whitened masterpiece under the moniker of the Black Marilyn Monroe. To achieve a high, straight bridge of the nose and a magnificent aura suited to elite tastes, Abbey had to undergo radical nasal bone grinding and internal mucosal cartilage trimming. This was a deeply invasive procedure aimed at completely destroying her original nasal structure. Pure African ancestral traits, such as wide nostrils and a low bridge, to construct a narrow, pointed nose according to European standards. The entertainment moguls of the era viewed her original identity as a barrier that needed to be removed by the surgical knife so she could stand under the prestigious spotlights. The raw truth of this pain only truly exploded as the civil rights movement spread, where her own colleagues and fellow activists directed the most bitter ironies toward her. A witness, a member of her contemporary activist group, recalled that Abbey was once directly criticized in the middle of a meeting as a racial traitor for carrying a face carved according to the will of the oppressors. Revelations from those close to her describe tragic moments when Abbey stood before the mirror in her dressing room and sobbed uncontrollably. She felt disgusted by her own beauty, calling it a product of mental slavery. Although Abbey Lincoln later bravely discarded her wigs and glamorous dresses to reclaim her freedom, her surgically altered nose was something she could never take back. Those who worked with her in the later stages recounted that while her intellectual metamorphosis helped her become a great spiritual icon, every time she looked in the mirror, she still had to face the permanent cuts on her face, a lingering consequence of the dollification era. The death of her old identity under the surgical blade left a spiritual void that even the aura of a freedom icon could not fully compensate for, turning her face into a silent manifesto about the brutal price of aesthetic compromise. 11. Jeanne Bell. The first playmate and the secret behind the brow bone. The story of Jeanne Bell is not just a historical milestone as she became the first black woman to appear on the cover of Playboy, but also a chilling testament to the brutal surgical intervention required to achieve a perfect gaze. Before becoming an icon of glamour, Jeanne originally possessed a short forehead and a low, drooping brow bone, which made her face appear somewhat heavy and lacking the necessary elegance for a photographic model. To obtain the high, arching eyebrows that created a provocatively innocent look, she had to undergo a brow lift technique via a coronal incision. This was an extremely invasive procedure where a doctor made a long incision from one ear to the other across the top of the head, then detached the entire forehead skin layer from the skull to pull it backward and upward. This raw truth was only exposed when a studio photographer accidentally captured a moment where high-intensity flashlights shone through her wig, revealing a long scar running along her hairline. This technique of overstretching the scalp not only left permanent scars, but also completely devastated the hair follicles, leading to irreversible hair loss in the forehead area. Those who worked directly with Jeanne during close-up photo shoots recounted that behind the voluminous hair and soul-piercing gaze was a scalp area that was dry, numb, and had completely lost its natural sensation. Jeanne had to live for decades with the feeling as if an iron band were tightening around her skull due to the skin being stretched to its physiological limit. Revelations from those close to her describe moments where she sat quietly in the makeup room, enduring sharp pains in the crown of her head every time she had to wear heavy wigs to hide the traces of the surgery. The most bitter point in Jeanne Bell's life was that her beauty became a prison with no escape. She broke racial barriers at Playboy, but the price paid was the trade-off of the natural sensation of her flesh for an appearance molded from incisions through the skull. The truth from leaked photographs shows that behind the radiant smile of a historical icon was a constant obsession that this borrowed beauty could be stripped bare at any moment under the camera flash. 11 stories, 11 destinies have concluded, but the scars they left behind remain a painful reminder of the price of perfection. Behind the shimmering photographs in the press, the reality consisted of faces as frozen as wax figures, throbbing pains whenever the weather turned, and an ultimate fear that this borrowed beauty would melt at any moment under the stage lights. If these raw truths have changed your perspective on the price of the limelight, please support us by hitting like, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any untold behind-the-scenes stories about the world's black icons. What do you think about this ruthless trade-off? Please leave a comment below so we can discuss it together. Thank you for watching, goodbye, and see you again.